Welcome, hello, welcome, hi, bienvenue, willkommen, all of the greetings. That's the only two alternate language greetings I know. Sorry.
Hola?
There you go.
Works. Surely we could think of more.
Yeah. We had
turned our
Google
brains
Translate
on.
up.
Oh, right. Yeah, but I bet you if people started chiming in with stuff, we'd be like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they will. Send your greeting.
Send in your
chat.
other language greetings, please.
Yeah.
We need a little more multiculturalism here.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that there's only 2, no 3 that we could think of.
Welcome everyone to Crimes Against Folk on another wonderful Sunday.
Hooray.
We're really excited about this one. We've got a guest today, which is going to be great because we haven't hung out with this person in a while.
I know. It's been a long time.
It's been a long time.
We've been keeping tabs, though.
Yeah.
Some might call it internet stalking.
Yeah. We've got Amber Woodhouse coming in on the show today. She is a saxophonist and a singer, a lead singer in the band Trigger Hippy, Nashville-based, awesome, incredible band. And we're going to be chatting with her today about a couple things.
Cool band name, too.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like,
love it.
Thank you. Can I just personally say to Trigger Hippy, thank you for not doing an X and the Y's band name.
Trigger and the Hippies?
Yes, because that's what, you easily could have done that.
Ed hates that.
It only works like I'd say 5% of the time.
I just don't like it when it's like so obviously put on. Like
Right.
there was some band, okay, like something and the Get Down Stay Downs.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, that's just
Why?
ridiculous.
I mean, unless there's really like a deep meaning behind that, like I get it. Like
I'm sure there probably is. Maybe there is. I don't know.
yeah.
But
Like I get why Nicole is Nicole Boggs in the reel. Like that makes sense to me.
right.
Because she's Nicole Boggs, you know?
Exactly.
And she's always been Nicole Boggs, so it's kind of hard to like change your identity and come up with an entirely new band name when you're just kind of like adding members to your thing, you
Right.
know? So it would be a branding issue. And then the reel is cool, the REEL, you know, they're kind of like they've got this like throwback sound. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So kudos to Trigger Hippy for coming up with a super cool band name.
Yeah.
And for tips and tricks today, we're doing some Instagram tips from our Instagram resident professional, Ashley.
Hello. I don't know much about this life, but I have figured out Instagram. And after this, I think we're going to be moving our tips and tricks section entirely to our Patreon page. So I think this is the last one. Correct me if I'm
Yep.
wrong. Yeah, okay.
I think this will
So
be the
this
last
is the last time that tips and tricks will be live and public.
Yep.
So you will be able to get your tips and tricks still, but it's going to cost you. But not much, you guys. I know we keep saying it, and we really want to encourage everyone to go over to Patreon and sign up to be a patron. It's only $5 a month. And what you get with that is you get a pre-show concert every single week for $5 of 1 month. 1 month, $5. And then every week you get a pre-show concert that we will send you a link to, and you can join, and Ed and I will play some songs for you before this podcast starts with a few other people joining and commenting. You'll also get your tips and tricks sections in there. You will get like 3 or 4 bonus stories a month. And you're also going to get we're going to start doing this new segment that we're both really excited about, called Behind the Song, where we're going to break down a song that Ed and I have written and produced from start to finish and tell you exactly how we wrote it, how we produced it, what we used, where we were, the gear, the instrumentation, the songwriters, everything. If there's a music video, we'll talk about the music. I mean, we're just going to nail down everything about this. And that'll be a once a month thing that you can only get on Patreon. So
we'll even show you the session too. We'll
Right. Ed will show you the session because I have no idea how to do that.
So yeah, you don't want to miss that.
I don't want to miss that. So it's just $5 a month for all that. And then there's, of course, higher tiers for things like if you want to join the post-show discussion, you'll be in the producer level, stuff like that. But really, we've made the cheap tier, we put a lot in the super cheap tier.
Yep.
So most of you guys will get most of the stuff because we just really, really, and that will not change. We just really want our community to grow there. So please join us on patreon.com/crimesagainstfolk.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good time.
Good times.
Yeah.
All right. So, as usual, we'll start off with a little show and tell.
Yeah.
And it's my turn this week.
Yeah. I was glad you picked this one.
Yeah. I thought I was scrolling through, just like, okay, what do I want to cover this week? And this just popped out, as they often do. And this is a photo of Ash and myself with kind of stylish little, like, Phantom of the Opera style basques on in a room with a drum set and a piano. It's kind of black and white. And this was from the filming of the music video for Music Monster. And we did this at the Nashville Jazz Workshop. We were really grateful to the Nashville Jazz Workshop for letting us film there. We kind of just took over what they called the Jazz Cave for a few hours. And I'm blanking on the filmmaker's name we worked with. What was his name?
Brian Harstein.
Brian Harstein. Yes,
he was I know him because he did my very first Nashville music video. So when I went to Nashville, I was introduced to him through a manager I had at the time, and we worked on making a music video together, and we kind of stayed friends throughout time. And he actually, that was something he owed to us because, or to me, it was a deal that he and I had struck, and he said, he said the deal is, and he was throwing this deal out to a lot of people. He said, if you nail my company a higher end music videos, and if you find us a client that will, pay us for a super high end, super big deal music video, then we will in return gift you a small free music video, a small production. So he had owed this to me for like a year because I did find him a client, like randomly, a good client. Nice. And so we were like getting ready to leave Nashville permanently. And I was like, hey, Brian, Ed and I are leaving, and you gotta pay up here. And he did. And I think we left like 2 days after this.
Yeah, it wasn't very long after this that we wound up leaving.
Yeah.
But yeah, luckily we managed to get it all done. I mean, it was just multiple angles of this shot. And he had like, the camera tracks and everything, so we could do like the cool shots, cool panning shots and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we just set up 2 microphones. They weren't obviously the microphones that we used. They had 2 cool looking microphones and their awesome piano in the background. This place, unfortunately, is no longer around. This particular location is no longer around. This was in the old Jazz Cave at the Jazz Workshop, and the owner of the land had sold it, I believe, to somebody else. It was a place called the Newhoff Complex. It was an old meat packing facility, and someone had owned it, and they rented it out to a bunch of different people. A couple of artist collectives and stuff, and then the Jazz Workshop. And then eventually that got sold again, and they were basically just going to tear the whole thing down. So the Jazz Workshop had to find something kind of in a hurry. And so they lucked upon I think it was an old church building or something, not too far away. So they're still in Germantown. But yeah, that was in the old Jazz Cave. A lot of good memories in that place.
I'm glad they're still in Germantown too. It feels like
Yeah.
it would be weird for the Nashville Jazz Workshop to be anywhere else, you know?
I agree. Like it's kind of a Germantown institution, really. Like, it's this little place kind of tucked away down kind of close to the river, and if you didn't you didn't know what you were looking for, you couldn't find it. It was actually kind of hard for some people to find it because it is very kind of tucked away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting experience. It was like what, 4 or 5 hours we did that or something.
Yeah, it didn't take that long.
Yeah.
And of course, the video itself, if you guys look up with the word music monster, that's the name of the video, which is where we get that's kind of become part of our brand, is as you know, our Facebook fan page is called The Music Monsters because of this song in the video. And yeah, it was it kind of stuck around, and that's the kind of the idea behind the mask too. We were the music monsters.
That's right. We wound up using those masks on the cover and in the photo for Music Monster, because Michelle took a bunch of photos of us, and we were on like a windmill or something, and then your mom did a painting of that photo.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh, that's great. That's going to be the cover.
Yeah.
That's a really good painting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It was like a weird collaboration of the photos to the painting to the album cover.
Yeah, we've done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have actually played there a couple of times at the Jazz Workshop a couple of times. Like the fun thing about the Jazz Workshop was, if you took, it's a place where you can, they bring in like very famous, jazz performers, and those jazz performers will play or sometimes even give workshops or classes, and they'll also do just classes that anybody can take, from beginners to advanced types of classes on all kinds of things, like whether it's music theory, whether it's just like history, advanced improvisation, writing jazz songs, all kinds of stuff. And a lot of their courses are performance based. So if you join I did a lot of the what are called ensemble classes, and they're actually going in there and playing, and you learn a set of songs over the course of 5 weeks, and then the 6th week you got to go into this jazz cave here and actually perform for an audience, and those concerts were free. It was kind of neat. So you get to go watch a bunch of students try to play some jazz music.
And, that's cool, though. I like that.
It's great because it's kind of the real experience of actually, if you've never played jazz before, but let's say you're a pretty good musician, but you've never played jazz before, it's a great way to do it because you're going in there, you're working with a bunch of other people and a very experienced instructor, and then you go on stage and you're like, all right, no, the instructor's not there, they're not counting anything off. You're a band now.
Yeah.
Go do it. And whatever happens. And so it's a really good kind of quick intro to playing in a jazz group. And it's a really wonderful place. So I'm glad that, Roger Spencer and Lori Meacham are the founders of it, and they've done an incredible job over the years. So
yeah.
Yeah, we were very grateful that they let us do that. It was very nice of them.
Yeah, it was kind of a cool send off too. It was like a closing the Nashville chapter with like this awesome music video in such a special place. And yeah, I was glad we got to do that too. And I love that video. I think that Brian and his crew did a really beautiful job with working with like I said, that's just their basic video. It's just one room. I think it was, we just kind of ran through it a few times and he edited it together and it looks fantastic. So I was very happy with that.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my show and tell. It's my little memory from Nashville.
The end of the Nashville memories.
Yeah, the end times.
Yeah, it's a good
Before
one.
Nashville really got popular when we left.
Yep. That's how it goes.
So if you need to revitalize your city, just invite us there to live for about a year, and then we'll leave, and then you'll be fine.
Exactly. If you want to get cool, that's how you. If you want your city to be cool, just invite Ed and I in.
We won't do anything,
We'll
except
leave.
just live there. But.
Right. And then we'll think everything is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we'll leave, and then it actually becomes cool.
Next up, we have a one of our videos to show, and this was spurred by I had a lovely chat with Ashley and Stephanie not too long ago, and this kind of came back up the experience we all had in Liverpool when we did the Songs from a Subaru series.
Yeah.
And so I thought we should kind of revisit that really fun video today during the pod.
That's a good one.
So
We did a bonus behind the scenes on the photo related to this video as well. So you can find that on Patreon eventually.
Yep.
But this was a good choice, Ed, because that Liverpool in particular was a really special memory for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
There was something really, really cool about walking into BBC Radio in Liverpool.
That's still one of the coolest moments I've ever
not
experienced.
not just to like check it out, to like be on the radio.
Yeah, we're on BBC Merseyside, like, you know, going to Liverpool and Bootle and Southport and all these cities that, you know, so many other bands have, famous bands have been broadcast to. That was something else.
Yeah, that was really special.
So here's our Songs from a Subaru video from Liverpool.
These are the adventures of an American indie folk band on tour in Europe.
We've partnered with Subaru Europe and are touring through 6 countries, playing 24 shows in 5 weeks.
Additionally, we're documenting footage from every city we perform in on our tour, plus an original song recorded right from our Subi.
Follow us as we drive through England, Scotland, Wales, Germany, France, Netherlands, and wherever else the road takes us.
This is Ashley, lead singer, songwriter, and acoustic guitar player.
Ed, lead singer, songwriter, and electric guitar player.
Stephanie, violinist, mandolin player, and singer.
Lisa, tour manager, band mom, merch sales, and chaos coordinator.
We are Woodward.
And this is Songs from a Subaru.
1, 2, 3, 4. You can knock on a door and expect it to open when you know nobody's home. You can't ring a bell that's already broken, so you go inside alone. This house is haunted by me. I roam the halls when I can't sleep. The shadows are sideways, the mirrors are highways to the soul of a mystery. You won't believe this house is haunted it bleed. You can't warm the snow with a hand so cold. Just let it be. Let it freeze. This house is haunted by me. I roam the halls and I can't sleep. The shadows are sideways, the mirrors are highways to the soul of a mystery. You won't believe this house is haunted by me. Lost in the dark of an abandoned heart. What I fear most is I become a ghost. This house is haunted by me. I roam the halls and I can't sleep. The shadows are sideways, the mirrors are highways to the soul of a mystery. You won't believe this house is haunted by me.
So that was that was our adventure in Liverpool and Southport. There were a lot of good beach shots from Southport that you got, Ash. And
Yeah, I got to go for this long walk by myself in the morning, and I discovered this really cool like preserve area that opened up to the beach, which was just sand forever. It was so cool just walking around and exploring Southport. And
yeah, they had a pretty cool little boardwalk and little drag or whatever. They had some it's like a fair thing or amusement park thing they had or something.
Yeah, which I think is where we got the idea for the carousel, because the one, I was like, let's get some shots on the carousel, but it was closed. And so we saw the one in Liverpool and we're like, oh, it's on. And
yep.
It's just that Stephanie cracks me up sometimes. She's so funny.
Mm-hmm. So that was perfectly done.
And the slow motion just made it even better. So if you're listening and you're not watching this podcast, please go to YouTube or go to our show notes on our website, or just go to YouTube and look up Witherword Songs from a Subaru Liverpool, and just scroll to the end, very end, to watch the carousel scene with Stephanie on the carousel because it kills me.
We also had a little clip in there from Grateful Fred's as well.
That was such a cool show.
Yeah, that was the house concert we played that year. And yeah, that was a really fun show. I loved it. And, we had Colin Maddox on the show earlier this year. I think it was in September we had him on.
Yep.
To talk a bit about what he's doing. And he had us back at the Atkinson. It's also in Southport, a beautiful theater as well. So it was nice to have that little clip in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like one of my favorite house concerts of all time.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. I mean, the Atkinson obviously is such a beautiful theater, but just something about that house concert felt so intimate and special, and everyone was so cool, and it was like 1,000,000 degrees in there.
Yeah, it was very hot.
We still had so much fun.
Well, we'll move on to our guest segment. And today's guest is Amber Woodhouse
Woo!
Of Trigger Hippy. And I'm going to read a little blurb she sent in for me. Amber Woodhouse is a singer and saxophonist who blurs the lines between mainstream and the experimental. Woodhouse has found her groove in captivating audiences around the country with powerful but sultry vocals, mellow saxophone riffs, and magnetic stage presence. As one of the lead singers of the band Trigger Hippy, as well as her own solo music, Woodhouse is constantly making her mark on the Nashville music scene and beyond. And we can attest to the vocals, saxophone, and stage presence.
Oh, yeah.
She is a force. I saw her, I think the one time I clearly remember seeing her was when she played, I believe, with Chris Swartwood. Chris Swartwood's band. And it was kind of a neo soul ish kind of thing at the basement, and I was like, man, she's really good.
Yeah, which she's so quiet. Like I don't know if quiet's the right word, but like I remember being in a circle, like a song circle with her. And which would happen all the time when you live in Nashville. Like you hang out with your music friends and all of a sudden everyone's in a circle sharing songs.
Yep.
And I remember, and I hadn't heard her, and our group of friends can be kind of loud and in your face, and myself included, and we'll be like we're not, I'll just be like, I wrote a new song, everyone listen, and you just start playing it, whether they want to actually hear it or not, doesn't matter, because you're just going to do it. And so we would often do that, like, especially with like me and Nicole Boggs, and Kylie and like Ed and Lauren, like all this, and the Ember, like just really, really common to be doing stuff like this. And then Dave, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Amber is like, didn't really do that. She would, because she didn't have to.
Right.
She was just, because I remember being like, Amber, why don't you play something you never do? And she did. And it was like, oh, you're like the best one here.
That's awesome. So she was kind enough to send in a story. This was a clip from an Instagram live stream that she sent along, and so we're going to play that first for you right now.
Sometime last year, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and so I actually had to sit on the bench for a little bit, if you will, to deal with that. I had a surgery, but I was itching to get back, and I was watching all of the shows I couldn't be at via like Facebook live streams and stuff like that. I'm like, go guys, like cheer them on. But I'm just so happy that I'm still able to do this and do my own music and still be part of other bands and just like, I don't know, I just feel really grateful for all of that.
And I also don't want to be a downer, but I would like to talk a little bit about how that diagnosis has been for you and where you're at with it now. And obviously you look beautiful and
Thank
healthy
you.
and you're doing pretty well for yourself, but I know that you were diagnosed with that, mid-year last year?
Yeah, like, I guess I had been really dealing with like really awful symptoms from February of last year through July when I ended up having my surgery. And I was diagnosed about June. And the craziest thing was the like final straw was actually playing Bonnaroo with Moon Taxi, and then the next day I was in the hospital, and then was in the hospital for like another week. And then they were like, all right, so we're going to have to like figure this out. We've been exhausting all of our efforts, but we're going to have a surgery.
Wow.
And so, you know, amped myself up to have it. I was like, it's not a big deal. I'm fine. It's totally cool. And then we had it, and it was about physically it was maybe a 5 or 6 week recovery, but even vocally, I don't think I was really back to where I needed to be until 12 weeks after that.
Wow.
But since then, like, I just am living a happy life. It's probably the most normal I've felt in years.
Wow.
And I didn't even know that I was dealing with so many terrible symptoms until they let me know, oh, that's actually not how you're supposed to feel. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel great.
Yeah, that's great. So what exactly is Crohn's disease?
It's an autoimmune disease. For me, it attacks my ileum and parts of my small intestine and parts of my colon. And basically, an autoimmune disease is where your immune system attacks healthy organs. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease. Ulcerative colitis is one. Plaque psoriasis is an autoimmune disease. I mean, there's so many of them, and they affect people in different ways. And things like, you know, super cold weather can kind of cause a flare-up, or diet, or whatever. Like, I joke, but truly I'm actually allergic to raw veggies and seeds and nuts and stuff like that, you know.
That's heartbreaking to hear.
Heartbreaking, right? No, but like, you know, I don't feel good after those things.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, you know, that.
That you would never think that would be a trigger.
Yeah.
If you didn't know.
Right. So it's been interesting kind of learning those triggers for myself. But yeah, it's different for everyone, treated differently for a lot of people. Not everyone has to have a surgery to fix it. I had to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And do you feel like now you kind of have a platform to almost be a spokesperson for pushing not just any sort of disease or anything, but pushing through hardships and
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're healthy.
Thank you.
And back up on stage and feeling 100% with your vocals and everything. But let's play some more music.
Cool.
What are you thinking from your heart?
Let me see. What?
Missy Elliott, Sia.
Let's do Missy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy choice.
It's been super rainy in Nashville, so I picked this one for that reason.
Cool. So it is called The Rain by the infamous Missy Elliott here on Acme Radio Live.
Super duper fly.
Perfect.
Yeah. Sometime last year, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease.
So that was a story from our guest, Amber Woodhouse, mainly about her recent diagnosis. And we're going to give her a call right now and just chat about a few things. A few stuff.
A few stuff and things.
All right. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
Amber.
Let me put you on here.
Guys.
Hi.
I hope the audio is okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it sounds good here.
Cool.
Okay,
this
there's your
light.
video. I'm going to share this real quick. I'll be cutting back and forth.
Okay.
But I'll share this so you can at least see us a little bit.
Okay.
Because there's kind of the whole house of cards thing going on here, tower of cards going on.
You guys have a
so-
great setup.
Oh, thank you.
It's all Ed.
You. This is the result of like 2 or 3 months of experimentation. So
Yeah,
I'm just in front of a closet door, so.
that's okay. I'm in my kitchen.
You look great, Amber.
Thank you.
I'm loving that hair. That is just beautiful.
Yeah, it looks
Thank
awesome.
you. It adds like probably 5 pounds to my head, I think, but cool.
Worth it.
Yeah,
Totally worth it.
So how are you? How's it going?
I'm good. I'm really glad that you guys were able to show that video.
Yeah, me too.
Of the interview I did with Acme Radio, because in the last probably 4 weeks, I've since had the reversal surgery of the one that I had, that I was talking about from that surgery with the ostomy.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah, so they've reconnected all the plumbing, and I'm back to normal, if you want to call it that.
Holy nuts.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
I didn't even
Yeah.
know that was a thing, to be honest.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that either.
It's a whole new world when you start diving in and reading about it. But
Wow.
I'm grateful that I'm healing up well. I feel well. Yeah, I couldn't ask for anything more.
Does that mean that you're in remission or you're cured?
So there isn't a cure for Crohn's disease, but I am in remission. I take Humira. I noticed, Ed, is that your mom in the chat, Alice?
Yes, that's my mom. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She's a biochemist, so she knows a lot about like the specializing kind of immunochemistry. So she knows a lot about that stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm on that and partnered with that, exercise and better diet than I've had. Yeah, I've been in remission for about 1.5 years with really no symptoms. And so they just looked inside and saw that everything looks really well. In fact, they said they didn't see any signs of Crohn's disease. So they were like, let's reconnect everything. Let's go. So
Wow.
Wow.
Well, Amber, this is something I really wanted to talk to you about, and I was wondering if you were on Humira, because I don't think you know this, but I also have an autoimmune disease, and I'm also on Humira.
no way.
Yeah, so I had it when I was living in Nashville, but I wasn't on Humira yet. It was just I have a because also I think most autoimmune diseases don't have a cure, but you can send you into remission. So I have acropustulosis, which is in the psoriasis family, and it attacks your nail beds and your fingers. So I don't know if you remember this, but I always had Band-Aids on my fingers in Nashville.
Yeah.
I don't know if that jogs your memory, but anyway,
No, it does.
yeah, when Ed and I left and we were touring, it just kept spreading and kept getting worse, and I was like, you know what, enough of this. So I went and I got on Humira, and I've been in remission now for about 4 years, I think.
Yeah, been 4
Whoa,
years.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. It's not a foolproof system, as you know, so I don't know if it's for me, if it'll come back or not, but it's so far so good.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Hey, Humira sister.
Yay! Hooray!
It's a funny thing. I mean, like, as younger individuals, we don't necessarily, if we're privileged enough, we don't think about injecting ourselves with something
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So they have like this pen that you can use, as I'm sure you know, that it's like an auto inject.
That's what I have, yeah.
Yeah, I am terrible with those. They startle me every time. It's kind of like I'm the kid that would get startled by like a Jack in the Box when I was a kid. I knew it was happening every time. But every time, like, oh God. So after wasting 2 or 3 of those pens, which are extremely expensive,
Yeah.
they switched me to like a normal syringe. So I use the normal thing. That's a fun time every other week. But yeah, I never thought that something like that would be part of my bi-weekly life, so to speak, but it's helped immensely.
Yeah, that's so funny that you prefer to give yourself the injection. They really are simple. Like, you just push a button, Amber. That's all you have to do.
But the thing, well, no, you push the button, you got to hold it down the whole time. So if
Right.
you are jumpy, which I am, you lose the medicine. So I like the 3 times I tried it on my own, I push it down, I immediately pull it back, and all the medicine it just like spills on my leg, goes nowhere inside of me, just everywhere else.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that is a very expensive pen.
Did you have
It's like
someone
$1,200.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Did you have someone like kind of help you with it, or did you just kind of get used to it? Well, I guess you didn't get used to it because they switched you, but
Yeah.
did you ever have like somebody kind of help you with that, or?
Yeah, so a couple of things. So like when you go on something like Humira, they give you like a advisor that kind of helps you. And because I was getting put on it post-surgery, my GI doctor and his nurse basically showed me how to use it and everything. And I was like, oh, piece of cake, I can do this. And yeah, no, couldn't. And then when I got the actual syringe, do you remember Amanda Broadway?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we're still very, very good friends. She actually helped me give myself my first injection. And when I say give myself, she gave me my first injection with the yeah. So,
That's nice, though. That's nice.
yeah. But like she was scared of hurting me too. So it took her a couple tries because she like just kind of would like poke my skin. She'd be like, oh, you can't. So I was like, just stab me.
Just do it.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
funny. Yeah, luckily I don't have a problem. I don't really have a problem with needles in general. So I think if I had to do the shot, it would also be fine. But I just like how easy it is to just like, shove the thing on your skin and just push the button and
Yep.
you're done. But I'm not that jumpy, I guess, luckily. But
I mean, in theory, it's a wonderful idea. It's
Yeah.
so great.
well, I think the biggest hurdle for me, and which is something I wanted to ask you about how you handle it, because I've been on it for 4 years, and I've had Ed knows, and some of the people who are watching right now know how I've had a lot of issues like getting the medication and keeping on it. So like there was one time, the scariest time was Ed and I were literally getting on a flight to Germany, and the plan was we were going to Europe for 2.5 months, and my now fiance, but at the time my boyfriend Brad, was going to meet us halfway through the tour, and he was going to fly over with half of my medication that I needed for the 2.5 months. And
Right.
I got a call as I was getting on, like right before I got on the plane to Germany, and they had tested me, because you have to stay up on blood work and all this stuff, and they took my blood and they tested me positive. It was a false positive, but I did get a positive for valley fever, which is a disease that's only specific to the western United States.
The Southwest in particular.
Southwest in particular, yeah. Arizona is rampant with it, some parts of California, but that's it. So which makes things even worse, because now I have to go get treated for this in Germany, and they don't even know what it is. So I was and they're like, oh, and by the way, we cannot renew your Humira prescription. So I was like, cool, I'll just go to Germany for 2.5 months without my prescription and diagnosed with a disease that they don't know what it is. Okay, thanks guys. Here we go. And I got there, and they it was like such a pain situation, because they were working with the doctors in the US, and they luckily I have a doctor friend, so he was really really helpful. I was up till like 4 a.m. most nights of the first 2 weeks of this tour trying to sort this out. And yeah, it was a false positive. They sent new blood work back, and they're like, okay, you don't have this. But then getting back on the Humira, even with the negative diagnosis, was such a pain. And this is just one example of many of situations I've had of getting my medication on time, which I did get, by the way. Brad was able to fly over with it after all. And also because it's so expensive, it's not like you can just go pay out of pocket for it. So I just want to know if you had a similar situation.
Yeah, I mean, certainly not as scary as the one you've just described. So when I got on it, apparently my insurance was paying for like 3 or 4 months supplies at a time, which was awesome. And then it switched to 1 month supplies at a time. So honestly for me, my only complaint at this point is that they only send them 1 month at a time, but they use the same size containers for shipping. Yeah. So to me, it just seems like a waste on the environment. I'm getting these massive coolers that are like styrofoam, and then like all of these ice packs and stuff like that. And then just like a 1 month supply of Humira, which is like, this big in the box. So I just I feel like maybe it would save you guys money if you would just send me the 3 month supply. But here we are. But yeah, no, I've been fortunate enough to not have to be freaking out about it.
Okay, well, hopefully you don't get on something similar. But I never thought about that before. You're totally right. That is a complete waste. I think I'm just used to having to get I've only ever gotten 1 month at a time. Yeah. So it just like felt. But yeah, that does seem silly. Why wouldn't they just send you a 3 month supply and then it'd be so much better for the environment? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's one box.
And the shipping involved, like it's just you're shipping just so much more. Often.
I mean, if they're afraid that we're going to want to inject ourselves more than twice a month, then that should not be a fear. We do not want to do that.
No, I'm good. I'm good on that.
Well, I'm so glad that you're in remission, and those surgeries sound super intense, but that's really incredible that all that went really smooth and that you're on the up and up. I'm really, really happy to hear that.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I feel like it's funny because there's still some staples and things on the inside of me that I can't see that I should be aware of. Mm-hmm. But now I'm getting to the like stir crazy phase where I'm like, I mean, I could get on my bike tomorrow. I could maybe like go for a run and not pop a staple. And that's probably true. I probably won't. But at the same time, I probably should still be careful.
Yeah, I guess it's hard to tell, isn't it? Like it's hard to when it's inside of you. It's like hard to tell how much you can push yourself,
Exactly.
Yeah, that's definitely something we wouldn't think about. That's
no.
That must be difficult.
What has since we're all kind of stuck in our houses, I'm just curious, what has Trigger Hippy been up to lately? Have y'all been doing any like live streaming or remote video stuff?
So the live streaming thing is a little bit of a challenge for us. Yeah. Ed lives in Asheville.
Okay.
And then the rest of us are in Nashville. So, I mean, it could be a thing that we could do, I suppose. But I think this time off for everyone has been really good. Myself and Nick have gotten together a couple times to write. And I jumped on a live stream with Ed and his other band of Heathens, about a month ago. And we did this fun collaboration on Islands in the Stream.
Cool.
And yeah, so check that out. That's on YouTube. And other than that, yeah, we're just kind of enjoying time to just chill. Because for a second there, I mean, we started ramping up with touring, and then also Ed's band of Heathens, just put out an album too. And so between Trigger Hippy's album and then piggybacking onto the Band of Heathens album, there's just a lot of stuff being thrown at all of us from all angles. So yeah, I've been focusing on writing for myself, writing for Trigger Hippy, getting better at home production kind of things, doing session work for other people here and there. I happened to sing a cover of Feelin' Good with a couple producers in town, and it got picked up for a commercial. So if you're watching TV and you see an ad for Trilogy and you hear Feelin' Good, that's me trying to sound like Nina Simone. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Congrats. That's a big deal.
Wow.
Thank you.
I think it's a big deal.
It's absolutely a big deal. That's wonderful.
Thank you. And I kind of feel like some of those opportunities would have been harder for me to get had I been out on the road. So it's like, okay, everything's happening in the time it's supposed to happen. We'll all get back to the stage when it's safe. I'm not exactly rushing to get there at the moment personally. Just it just doesn't seem like the right time. I did a month with my other band, the Music City Toppers, which has the original lineup was me, Alicia Michele, and Amanda Broadway.
Whoa.
And then we've since added Michelle Brook, who I think you guys left before meeting her, but she's a phenomenal singer as well. And so we all got back on stage for the month of October at Acme. And then Acme made the decision that as much fun as this is, we got to close down until it's actually safe to have live music again. And I honestly really appreciate them for that, because as I'm sure you guys know, musicians are some of the largest groups of people that like will show up to work sick.
Oh yeah.
Because oftentimes we're paycheck to paycheck and we're only as wealthy as our next gig. And so a lot of times musicians are getting on the bandstand and like, oh yeah, I've been like, I've had a cough for a few days, but like, it's really cool. Let's, okay, 1, 2, 1. And then all of a sudden the whole band's sick.
Yep.
And so I'm glad I get to kind of avoid those things right now.
Yeah. It is the scary thing because it's like, well, I know everyone has to go back to work, but it does seem a little extra scary for musicians because, I mean, there's only the outdoor concerts can only really happen in the summer unless you pick up a daytime thing in the west southwest, you know.
Yeah.
Again, with the Southwest is a very specific place, which, you know, I'm lucky we there are some things here, but even then it's kind of like, well, yeah, what do you do? Just go inside and sing for 4 hours with a mask on, or how can you do that? And I guess some people have figured out how to do that, but I don't know. It just feels weird.
I've done a couple weddings in the last few months, and I literally was just like, why? Like, I enjoy this because the bands that I do that with, it's a lot of fun, and it's like a murderer's row of musicians every time. Ooh. So that part is great, but then when all of the guests are unmasked, the weddings, like the caterer staff, the host, everybody, nobody's wearing a mask except for you. And you're like the only person who would prefer to not wear a mask to do your job. I just felt, I'm going to sit this out for a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's been
same.
great. It's been great because at this time now, like I said, I have more time to focus on music creation. I get to focus on my health, my diet, exercise. This year was the first year that I chose I guess it's a sport. It is a sport. I started biking back in March, right before the bike shortage happened. I was lucky enough to get a bike off of Amazon for like $150. And so I rode that like 5 times a week, pushing up my mileage. And for me, being someone who didn't grow up doing sports and really wasn't that athletic of a person naturally, to have the time to say, okay, every morning I'm going to get up and I'm going to be at Shelby Bottoms by like 8 a.m. and I'm going to bike for an hour and just see how far I get. And doing that for that long, by the end of the summer, I did my longest ride, which was a 30-mile ride. And I think we did that in like less than 3 hours or like right at 3 hours. So for me, I was over the moon and proud of myself for accomplishing something that actually has nothing to do with music, but it directly benefits me as a singer and saxophonist.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's awesome. Also, I miss Shelby Bottoms. I love that park. I used to go run it when I lived there. It's so nice. Are you in East Nashville?
I'm not, but I spend a lot of time over there just because so many of my friends are there, and there's a lot of session work that I do there. And then the Bottoms. There's plenty of places where I live nearby, but I feel like Shelby is just connected to so many parts of Nashville. It's just like a more efficient ride, I guess.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that about kind of the downtime leading to these things. I mean, that's basically was the impetus for us starting the podcast. Like we had, we had this idea like 2 years ago. But, we would play 200 shows a year all over the country. And it's like, well, it's really difficult for us to do that when we have to travel so much. It's possible. Like the hardware and the hardware part of it isn't that hard, but the logistics were the most difficult part. So when everything just ground to a halt, we're like, well, I guess we have time
we're going
now.
home. Yeah, we're on our way, and time to reevaluate everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
But it's been that I think has for a lot of people has been really good. It's just like, whoa, I got to stop and think about, well, what do I really want to do right now when I'm not doing the thing I was doing?
Yep.
Which is I think is just a fantastic. I think it's just a fantastic kind of way to it's a forced introspection on everyone's lives, which we haven't really had for a while, I think, as a society.
Yeah. It's been really interesting to hear what everyone's doing, because it's not like the music industry has not stopped. It's just changed very drastically.
Yeah.
And there are still plenty of large opportunities, like for example your big commercial, and that's really, really cool to hear stuff like that, because it's like, oh, it's not that our industry is dying, it's just changing. So if you roll with the change, then the opportunity might just be there for you.
Exactly.
Very, yeah. Man, that's so great. What have you noticed your kind of songwriting changing at all since the pandemic? Like topically or thematically, or even just, structurally? Has it changed much since you've had all this time to kind of work on it?
Yeah, I think for me it's more creative now.
Yeah.
And it has less to do with boys or love interests or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I might write about space, or I might write about social justice things, more than I'm going to be like, oh, he left me and I'm sad about it. Like, I think I'm finally past that era where, like, there's a place for those kinds of songs, but I think I'm moving into this new spot where it's more cerebral, but at the same time doesn't take itself so seriously.
Awesome.
That's interesting.
Yeah, what about you, Ash?
I actually resonate with that a lot. I think, I've done some virtual writes with some people, like over Zoom or whatever, and when they do want to write about, the heartbreak, and I still, because I still do write those songs, but when they want to write about it, it just doesn't feel as real and or as important. I don't know, when I have been writing a little bit more, or even like if I do write about a heartbreak or something, it's still going to be involved in like what's going on in the world, because there's just so much. There's no way that's not going to creep into people's songs these days. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head on that one. I think for a lot of writers at this point in time.
Right.
So
yeah, I think the last probably 3 co-writes I did in the last month, the topics are about basically the idea of like that everything's bigger than you, but also nothing. It's right now, not everything is about you.
Right.
Right.
And that seems to be like a recurring theme. But at the same time, the other theme that keeps coming up is we need each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to listen to each other and truly see each other and stop talking over each other. That's right now.
Kidding. We could definitely use that. And I'm hoping that more of us are taking that to heart than usual because of all this ridiculous situation that we're in right now.
Who's louder? That's what's happening, right? But you know what? I think that's one of the things that we're learning right now is I'm sorry if anyone's going to take this political, because I actually mean it in a really broad spectrum, but I suppose you could take it that way too. But it doesn't matter who's louder. Who is louder isn't necessarily what the public wants or what is important right now. It's about being smart and being caring and progressing, and those noises, those loud noises aren't gonna win just because they're louder. And I think that that's a really important lesson that we've all learned through recently.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Without being too political. So is that okay?
I think that's just reasonable thought.
Yeah, exactly.
And I hate that, like, having a reasonable, well thought out comment becomes politicized. Mm-hmm. Like, can we not just have intelligent, like, discussion and dialogue without it being like, well, now you're being political? No, I'm just like looking at our world and making an astute observation about it based on my lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, and your
I know.
experiences.
It's
and
sad that I have to like give it a disclaimer.
Right?
Yeah, that's where we're at, and I think it's going to take a lot of work to just roll that back, that attitude back, and understand that I think most of us want the same things. It's just there's been so many forces at work convincing people otherwise.
Yeah.
And it's just, having an ability to take a breath for a second and be like, well, okay, wait a minute. Maybe we are on the same page. I just need to not be so overbearing in my opinions and stuff like that, and listen to other people. Yeah, it is more about like focusing on what other people are going through and the society as a whole needs to do, not just what you and maybe your neighbor and your community need to do. You need to take everybody into consideration when you think about things sometimes.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
here's hoping anyway.
Do you guys think more people are starting to do that, or less people are starting to do that?
I think it's too early to tell.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's been moments where there are these large cross sections of people that are coming together to use their collective voice to make people who didn't have a voice originally be heard.
Yeah.
And I think those moments are beautiful, but then there are also moments within that you have to try and discern, okay, is this about a specific movement, or is this about the ego of the people running it? And like really trying to figure out, that has, at least for me, been a little bit of a struggle with just a lot of things, no one thing in particular. And I mean, even if we were making it political, like just looking at the presidential race and our current situation, and I don't necessarily need to go any further into that. We know what's going on, but there's just a lot of ego and not enough about thinking about the country as a whole, of what the people need. And I think that's, there's the ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And I do think that there's a lot of that has been lost in, I don't know, our generation, maybe generation before that. I think that we need to look inward and look at how we can help each other before we are looking to any politician to do it for us. Because history shows that one politician's not going to do anything for us. They might help, might make it a little bit better, but it takes the people and the people's voice to make change.
Yep, absolutely right. That's
Well
such
said.
a good sentiment to bring back too. Yeah, like what can you do for your country? Like that's just a sense of community that we don't really have at the moment.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm totally agree with that. What was I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. That was such a wonderful sentiment that it completely derailed my train of thought. Have you been like what's the pulse in Nashville like? Like what has it been kind of tense? Has it been okay? Has it been like from your perspective?
Yeah, I would say there were moments that were very tense. And it certainly in June and May with all the protests. The thing is, the protests themselves weren't the tense part. It was what happened at night. It was the police presence that seemed quite overzealous. It was the grabbing protesters and throwing them into vans and arresting them and ripping their masks off. There's one guy in town, Andrew Golden. He's a trumpet player. I don't know if you guys remember him, but he had his mask ripped off by a police officer, and the police officer has since been fired. And apparently this particular police officer has had this long history of complaints against him, and this is, I guess, the one that got him fired. But
Jeez.
So there's things like that are tense, but then there's also this feeling of hope. But then there's also this contingency of like, we're in this red state and we don't want things to change because things are good the way they are.
Right.
So Nashville, I think it's like maybe it's like a misleading place.
It's like Austin.
Because,
yeah,
exactly. It's like it's pretty liberal in all things considered, and then everything else around Nashville is super red. And I don't think red is the issue. There's other things that are the issue.
Right.
But just kind of knowing the climate between those two factions, we'll say, and then coming into Nashville, it's just, maybe it's a little bit misleading. I probably have rose-colored glasses, right? But I'm sure if I lived anywhere, maybe 2 hours outside of town, maybe I wouldn't be saying those things.
Right. No, that's true. It is that's the thing I've always noticed about Nashville, was that it is a bit of an outlier as far as the state's sort of political identity goes.
Yes.
Which again was true in Texas, and it's true a couple other places too. But yeah, I'm interested to see how people are going to kind of pick up the pieces after a lot of those protests, and really kind of look at themselves more, like we're saying, themselves more than anything. Like I feel like, there are some communities that did, and they're hopefully going to enact the changes that they made. Like, I think, wasn't it Minneapolis that decided to dramatically change how they did policing?
Yes.
And I think, I don't think that's going to be a thing that happens everywhere, but I think if you get one or two of those places to start, then everyone will at least consider it and see, like, okay, like, how do we want ourselves to be policed, and how do we want police affecting our fellow citizens? Like, I think that's also another disconnect, is that some people see other people in the city as they're kind of othering them. Mm-hmm. And that creates a big problem when you are trying to decide how the police should react to everybody, because you're splitting people into all these different groups based on whatever criteria, and then that attitude trickles upward through government, or trickles downward from government. So there is hopefully what the protests have done is really just bring so much attention to the problem that people start looking at themselves more than anything and say, oh man, maybe I should change how I think about people.
Yeah, I mean, like, even just as simple as thinking a couple times before you dial 911.
Yes.
On a neighbor that you don't know.
Yeah.
Specifically if they're black or brown. Honestly, I mean, there's so many instances that are still happening where people see someone walking down their street and they don't like the way they look, so they call the police and say they're suspicious, and then it spirals into something else. And whereas if we were all just more community oriented and like got to know the people in our neighborhood, maybe that wouldn't be our first response.
That's so funny. I'm sitting here chuckling to myself because it reminds me, I really don't want to give the identity away of who this person is, but this person that I know, we'll just say that, had was watching their that would, like, every day at a certain time would notice, and there was this like van that would pull up into the neighborhood and stop and like hang out there for a good 30 minutes to an hour. And this person I know it would see this happen every day and decided that it was really creepy and really weird and inappropriate. So this person called the police on the van, and it turns out it was just a nurse that was making house calls and would pull over to chart in her van after she made the house call so she could like have some peace and quiet. The poor thing got the cops called on her.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a very good example of
exactly.
I mean, that's something that poor nurse will never forget. And there's a lot of jobs out there where you have to stop in your car, especially now during COVID. Like, that's my aunt's a nurse, and she's charting in her car all day long and making house calls, and she's got, full geared up and masked and face shield, and then sits in charts and then goes to the next place. And it's a getting to know your neighbor, and maybe figuring, not jumping to the immediate conclusion of I need to call the police on this van, but maybe just figuring out, well, if this is bothering me, well, who is this person, and kind of maybe discovering it on your own before jumping to a conclusion that it's creepy and weird.
Yeah.
Exactly. And obviously, like, no one needs to be putting themselves in harm's way, but there's a lot of scenarios that you read about where you're like, wow, there was nothing harmful about this person. Like, I had seen one scenario where there was a guy who flips houses, and so he put his sign in the front of the house just saying, hey, I'm authorized to be here, flipping this house, got to take some pictures. And his neighbor, who was irate, or the neighbor, I guess, who's irate about it, calls the police, and she's like, well, I've never seen this man in my life. This is a problem. And then the cops were just annoyed at the lady because had she taken 2 seconds to ask the questions that the cops had to ask and waste taxpayer dollars to go to do this house call that was completely unnecessary, none of that would have had to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's not necessary. In fact, you could probably just presume that it's good happening, or you could just to keep more of a positive outlook on the random person that's standing outside of your house, and maybe they're not trying to scope your house out to rob it. Maybe they're a nurse or trying to chart, and they need a place to pull over, and you should probably provide that for them. Or maybe it's somebody who's flipping houses and just happens to be walking by, and you should probably just assume that it's something good, not something dark and evil.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because 99% of the time, that's probably more accurate.
Yeah.
I mean, I probably shouldn't be throwing out numbers and
Right.
I know nothing about.
Well, it has been really wonderful catching up with you and talking to you today. We just had one more question for you.
The most important question.
The most important question that we ask everybody.
Yeah.
If you were to acquire any superpower, what would you want to acquire?
Okay. So
see, that's somebody who knows what the answer is already and has already done this.
All right. So I go back and forth between a couple.
Mm-hmm.
So mainly, I think it would be really cool to have telekinesis that could evolve. So it'd be like X-Men style telekinesis, where like you get better, you can evolve your powers and how they're applicable. So I would do a hybrid of like X-Men telekinesis with like charmed telekinesis. Oh. So like where you could apply telekinesis to astral projection.
Yeah.
And maybe like a couple other things that kind of go off of that power tree.
Wow. Yeah.
Or super strength. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you could do so many things on your own, I guess, with super strength.
Exactly.
I mean, you could do you could combine both. Why not? I mean, you can make up whatever superhero you want. So what superpower you want.
Or like with telekinesis, you could make a force field shield around your entire body that is just like going outward with your telekinesis, and so technically you're like invulnerable for as long as you can hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is getting creative. Now you're thinking.
Yeah.
I don't do this in my head all the time.
I love it.
No, I love that and again, when you started, I'm like, she's prepared. She knows exactly what she's going to say. Because for a lot of people, it's kind of a tough question, and we're not doing it as sort of a personality test. We're just really curious. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, it's a tough question for me because like I have all these ideas in my head of like what would be cool. And when I was a kid, I used to write fan fiction.
Me too.
And awesome. And I made this character. Cute. Her name was Blue Streak, but she had like every power. I could justify them, but she had every power. And so then I would like write her storyline in these fan fiction forums, because kids back then there were message boards where you would put these things in RSS feeds. And then all the other nerds would come in and like out nerd me and let me know you can't have a character that has every power. They're OP, it's not okay. So yeah. It's a long time coming for me.
I think you can have every power you want to have, Amber. All the powers for you.
Yeah.
I mean, they're justified, so of course you can have it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Where can people find out more about you and what you're doing, and what kind of social stuff do you want to call out real quick?
Yeah, so on Instagram and Facebook, you can find me at I am Amber Woodhouse. And then on Twitter, which is basically a feed of me when I've had a couple cocktails and I just start like tweeting whatever I'm thinking, constant thoughts. Like 9 times out of 10, I've probably had a couple cocktails. That is just I am Amber W.
Okay.
But yeah, if you don't mind following me there, that would be probably like on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. That's the best way to figure out what I'm up to with my stuff and all the other bands I'm part of. And then if you're on Spotify or iTunes, I do have music of my own. It's just under Amber Woodhouse. So feel free to give me a spin. If you're on iTunes, I would very much appreciate if you happen to purchase any of my music to rate it. Give me 5 stars, or if you hate it, I guess, give me 1 star. Any stars, really, would be great. But I would very much appreciate that. And as I'm writing and working on things, I'm hoping that I will have new music for all of you guys sooner than later. But at least stay tuned.
Awesome.
Well,
I want to meet the person who hate buys music.
Hate
buys it and then rates it 1 star.
Oh.
I want to meet that person.
Oh, they're out there.
If I could find like 50,000 of those people, I'd be all for it.
Yeah,
Great.
they're like sitting in their parents' basement, like naked on their beanbag, eating Doritos right now.
Honestly, they're all hate buying Beyonce. I feel like they're like, we're so mad that she's so great at everything that she does. Hate buy.
Yeah.
Another bag of Doritos for me.
Yeah.
Mom, Hot Pockets.
Mom, they're not crispy enough.
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny because it's true. Well,
son, can you put some pants on?
Bedpan.
Oh, jeez. Oh, it's still true, and it's still funny.
This is where Amber jumps the shark. Okay.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you've had just as much fun as we have.
I have. My cheeks hurt, so.
Yeah. Perfect.
And yes, please, everybody, go check out Amber on socials, on Spotify, on iTunes. You will not be disappointed. Thank you again, Amber, and hopefully we'll chat and see you sometime soon.
Yeah, it was good to catch up with you, Amber. Really, really good.
See you guys.
All right.
Humera sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, take care.
All right, bye, guys.
Bye. Oh, that was so nice.
She's prolific. She has wonderful things to say. Really, really great perspectives and very, very well spoken.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I loved that. I love, especially when she kind of reminded me of the JFK quote. And I was like, oh yeah,
let's bring
very
that
relevant. Back. That's very relevant right now.
I forgot about it. Yeah, that's really, really good. We typically don't have our guests perform music because we just don't feel that it's going to do any justice over what we are calling them on. So hopefully, Ed and I, we have our system put together through Jamulus, and that's why we're able to perform without Wi-Fi lag. And also we use our professional studio equipment, but we would really, really hate to ask our guests who are wonderful musicians to come on through Skype without microphones or professional studio quality and ask them to sing a song and have it not sound good because of the quality of what they're using. So that is why we don't have our guests perform, but we do encourage everybody to check out her sites and her music. She really has a powerful voice and is a great songwriter and also a saxophonist.
Yeah,
So
hell of a saxophonist, that's for sure.
yeah, so there's a link in the chat, and we'll also put her links in the show notes. So definitely check out Amber Woodhouse. You will be very happy you did.
Absolutely. So now we'll move on to tips and tricks.
Woohoo!
And today we're going to focus on Instagram and have Ash share some of her wisdom. She's been doing some really good stuff on Instagram.
Thanks, Ed.
So, and it's seriously, it's very, very impressive.
Thank you.
So, I will get out of the way because I know nothing really about Instagram, and let her tell you all about it.
Well, it's something that we've had many discussions about because, you know, our main platforms through Witherword are really Facebook and YouTube, which is why we live stream only on Facebook and YouTube because, well, most of you guys are there, and thank you for being here now. But we've had so many conversations about like why we can't get our Instagram numbers up and why we don't have very good engagement and too many followers, blah, 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 blah. So I decided probably about a year and some months ago that I was going to crack this case because I was just really wanted to know how it works. So I started my own Instagram account that I could just really play around with and called Vagabond Voice. And it's taken on a kind of a life of its own. And yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed this alter ego that I created for myself on Instagram, which is Vagabond Voice. And it does involve a little music, but mostly it involves vintage fashion, which is a huge passion of mine. I absolutely love to dress up in vintage wear. I love finding vintage clothing. It makes me so happy. It's really strange how happy it makes me. And I love taking photo shoots. I have professional photo shoots I go on with Karen Gallagher. She takes a lot of my photos on that site. And then I decided to go beyond that and buy my own camera, and I'll set up the camera and I'll have Brad hit the button, or I'll put it on auto shoot if I see a cool spot that I want to shoot in. And I just have a lot of fun with this. So that's mainly what the page centers around anymore. And I started getting in some sponsorships as well, where some people will send me clothing or vintage style this or that, or sometimes just like I got a box of wine not too long ago kind of stuff, and I take pictures with it and I tag them in the product, and then I promote it on Instagram. And I've gotten my page to a pretty cool place where the ideas anymore on Instagram, it's not about how many followers you have, it's about how many people you have engaged in your post. So it's not, you can have 10,000 followers and that might seem really cool, but then if you look at those people's how their posts are performing, sometimes they only get like 100 likes, and you're like, okay, 10,000 followers and you get 100 likes, like how real is that? Well, it's not. You can buy a lot of those followers, or let's say you did build that organically and you're just not that engaging, people aren't going to like your photos as much. So the idea is to get your posts performing well, which is all about engagement, which is the main thing I want to talk about today. Instagram is 100% about engagement. It is not a thing, which is where Witherword failed big time, where you can just post something and have a bunch of people like and comment on it. That is not how it works. You have to comment on other people's stuff and like other people's stuff, and then they're going to like yours. And it's like it's a community platform. So if you're not part of the community and you're not engaging, then people they're not interested. So and there's like all these little niches that you can get into. Like my niche is so small. The vintage fashion niche is so small that I kind of go into other niches, travel niches, fashion niches, just cool people. And I built this amazing community. And you'll notice if you go onto my feed and you look at a lot of my comments and you'll look at, the comments on the 10 posts prior to that, you'll see the same 50 people posting every time. And it's because I'm posting on their photos every time. And that's how this works. And that's also boosts you in the algorithm. So you build your community and you get your circle of people that are just going to be super engaged in your stuff every time. And in Instagram, the algorithm's going to go, oh, this post is popular. Let's go ahead and bump that up and get them more traction. So anyway, that is the number one trick for Instagram. Is it's not a trick. You have to be on the app. And the more time you're on the app, the more love the algorithm is going to give you. So is that something you want to do? That's up to you. Here's what you can get out of Instagram. Yes, you can. If you build your page up, you can get paid. So you can get companies. It's a huge deal in marketing to be on Instagram right now and to have companies sponsor you to wear their stuff and take pictures of it. My feed right now is kind of at the point where I'm getting the free stuff. I'm not getting paid for it yet, but I'm trying to build it up to the point where I can, because for me, I want it to be a business one day. You can do this too. It's very time consuming. So do you have the time you want to put into it? That's completely up to you. If you're just like, no, not really. But also if you just want to have fun and meet some new people and create one of these communities, you totally can. And it's really fun to do that, even if you're not interested in the sponsorship and the brand side of things. I know people who are on it every single day and engaging in my stuff, and I'm engaging in theirs just because they like the community aspect of it. And sometimes I get to meet these people in person. If we're like, hey, I'm going to be in Arizona, let's go meet for coffee. Cool. And that is a really exciting moment because you've been following these people's feeds and you see them in their photos and their videos, and then you meet them and all of a sudden, and then you're like, oh, you're really cool. Let's be friends. So that's another perk of Instagram is just the people you meet can be really, really cool. So you want to post once a day also. And you really should focus on quality content, like the whole just posting random photos isn't really going to get, and I mean, people aren't going to be as engaged in those, especially if they're not that visible, or if it's just a bunch of selfies in a row. I mean, you want to make sure your page is something that people want to engage with, not just because you're engaging with them so they'll engage with you. Like that won't work if you don't have a page that is interesting. And also narrowing down your niche is supposed to be a good idea as well, because if you're too broad, people are just going to get confused. Like, what is this? Is this a travel page? It's like, if you have two, you can have maybe 2 or 3 niches. Absolutely. But once you have like 8 to 10, it's just too confusing for people. So post quality content. I highly recommend, if you want to get serious about it, in particular, getting a good camera. And especially if you want to build to a point where, you want to get brand sponsorships and things like that, you definitely want to use a good camera. Cell phone pictures aren't necessarily going to cut it unless you really use a good editing app or really know how to work your pro settings on your camera. Another great thing to do that is also going to boost you in the algorithm is use all of the Instagram features. This includes stories, reels, IGTV, and posts, your regular posts. Also, we'll get to hashtags in a little bit, but the more you use their features, the more Instagram is going to, again, go, oh, well, they're really active on here, and you're going to get boosted in the algorithm. They also have things in the stories like heart sliders, you can put, I don't know what it's called, but you can put a little thing in there that people can slide and how much they like the photo in your story. Stuff like that is going to get you more engagement because people are actually engaging with your story. You can do quizzes, you can do polls, you can add music from Spotify. All of this stuff really helps. You can do location tagging, you can do just I really recommend when you post your stories to go through all those little features that they have and try to use them. You could do stickers, try to use all of them, cycle through them. I mean, not necessarily every day, but if you're posting one story a day, try something different every week and see what happens. The Reels thing, that is brand new for Instagram. Reels is an Reels. This is more difficult to navigate. It took me a while to figure out, honestly. It's basically TikTok on Instagram. If you guys are not familiar with TikTok, it is the newest hip social app to use. It's short videos, and I think Ed's in a similar boat here, but I was kind of like down on TikTok for a long time. And then you start discovering kind of cool videos on TikTok and you're like, oh, I get it now. It's actually kind of fun. So Instagram has, and a lot of it's not, of course, a lot of it's just annoying, but there's some really cool videos and people do really unique stuff. And what's fun about that is they post it and then it's just, anybody like you and me, and they post stuff and sometimes it just does very well. And all of a sudden they're a TikTok star. And we know the famous story about the guy who was riding his longboard down some street singing with a bottle of cranberry juice and singing the Fleetwood Mac Dreams song. He has millions and millions of hits on this song, and Ocean Spray bought him a new truck. And it put Dreams back on the charts for the third time on the Billboard charts. There's a lot of power behind TikTok, and I am totally back on Instagram right after this. So basically Instagram has started their own version of TikTok. It's called Reels. And like I said, it's kind of hard to navigate because you have to like find it in your stories element, and then you have to know how to edit with it. And it does take a minute to kind of figure out how to edit your reel together, but it is definitely possible to do. And once you get it, you're like, oh, okay, now I understand. They're really pushing this feature right now in particular because they're trying to compete with TikTok. And so your reels are going to get more views and more attention and likes than probably anything else. So I do recommend trying that. And you can do cool stuff, like short videos of, a lot of people do fashion stuff, or you can do, short music videos and say, oh, go check out the full thing here, whatever you want to do. But yeah, so reels can be kind of fun and similar to TikTok. Let's see. Other Instagram features. Oh, there is a new feature. I don't understand this yet, but it is a shopping feature. And it seems like, this just happened like 2 days ago. I don't understand it. I don't know if this means Instagram is going in a new direction, but basically they've created a whole new tab for you to just find things to buy on Instagram, which is strange to me. That's literally all I know, but my app updated and I was like, what is this? And it's a little shopping bag. So I can update you guys more on that later once I figure out what's happening. Use hashtags. These are really, really important for discovery. What that does is that puts you on the explore page. So if you do hashtag, let's say you dressed up for Halloween, and you definitely want to put hashtag Halloween in there, because people will then search for hashtag Halloween because they're looking for cool Halloween costumes and they want to see what people are doing, and so they'll start scrolling. And if you have an interesting post, this is why, again, it's important to post quality content, because if you just if you have a really cool costume on and you just take a little selfie with that cool costume and people are scrolling through hashtag Halloween, they're probably not going to stop on your photo. But if you take the time to use a professional camera and pose in a cool way, in a cool setting with great lighting and a perfect edit, they're going to be drawn to it. And now more people are going to like that photo. So quality content is really important for the hashtags as well. You can only post 30 hashtags on your photo per day. The Instagram gurus recommend that you put it in the comments. So post your photo with your caption, which captions also need to be very engaging, by the way. People really do respond to your captions. And then you comment on your own photo with 30 hashtags, and they should definitely be related to your post. How do I find 30 related hashtags? This is a really, really, really good tip. Okay. I paid for an Instagram marketing course to get this tip, and I'm giving it to you guys right now. And it is displaypurposes.com. So go to displaypurposes.com, type in 1 or 2 related hashtags, Halloween, costume. They're going to give you 30, and all you have to do is copy and paste. And the cool thing about that is they're going to give you hashtags that are not broken. So actually, hashtag Halloween is broken. What does this mean? This means you're not going to appear on the Explore page, because sometimes people post inappropriate content with the hashtags, and Instagram will shut the hashtag down. And if you have a broken hashtag, then your post isn't going to get a lot of likes, because it's not really going to show up anywhere. And how do you figure out if it's broken or not? I don't really know. You just do. I think what happens is if you look for it in the Explore page, it'll tell you. It's very, very confusing and complicated and very time consuming. But if you go to displaypurposes.com and type, they're not going to give you the broken hashtags. So that is a benefit of them. Sometimes they're going to give you unrelated hashtags. Like you're gonna be like, wait, why did hashtag Portugal show up when I typed in Halloween? It's just because they're doing the best they can, so just delete that and put in something else. Okay. So what I would recommend is I would recommend spending an hour a day on Instagram. Put your post out there, start scrolling through related feeds. Definitely follow people that are similar to you, or that you think will be engaging with you, and spend an hour a day just commenting on other people's posts and finding new people to comment on, because that's what's going to get you more action. In fact, the number one thing that is going to get you more followers, and every Instagram guru is going to tell you this across the board, is find new people that you don't follow just in search box. You find them through hashtags, like look for in the search box, look for a hashtag Halloween and see what comes up. And if you find an account that's maybe similar to yours or interesting to you, click on that and comment on their post. And if you do this multiple times a day, you're going to watch your followers just go up and up and up and up and up if you spend time doing this. And also, you want to do it on people that you follow because you want to stay engaged with them. So is this very time consuming? Of course it is. If you don't want to put this kind of time into Instagram, don't worry about it. You don't have to do it. But if you want to crack the code to Instagram like I did, if you follow everything I just told you, which sounds like a lot, but really you get into a routine of it and it becomes really fun and addicting, then go for it. Give it a shot. See what happens. The last thing I'll tell you about, and then we can move on from this segment, is join an engagement group. So there are Facebook groups in particular that are really great for finding people who are Instagram enthusiasts, because sometimes, how do you know who's going to engage and who's not? You don't. And a lot of the people who are serious about it will join the Facebook groups. I have one that I host with some other musicians. It's called MEG, M-E-G, Musician Engagement Group. And it's Instagram and some other things too. And it's kind of like musicians helping musicians. So you can definitely join that and find some like-minded people if you're a musician to engage with, and it is definitely going to boost you in the algorithm. There's other stuff too. There's WhatsApp groups, there's Instagram groups. Instagram kind of looks down on this, so I wouldn't really recommend like joining a pod per se. I don't understand why they look down on this. It's not necessarily against their rules and regulations, and I don't get why they even care, honestly, but they do. So sometimes they will what's called shadow ban you, which just means like they're just going to kind of block you in the algorithm and you're going to have no idea. It's a really, really weird thing. So, but yeah, try to find, or you can start your own, grab a handful of people and be like, hey, do you want to start a little a little thing. Like I'll comment on your stuff every day if you comment on mine, and I would recommend small ones because the big ones are just, oh God, I joined one once on Telegram that was like 150 people, and it was an absolute nightmare.
Whoa.
So do not do that. I left very soon after. I cannot keep up with this. And yeah, just find your community, have fun with it. Remember, this is supposed to be fun, even though it sounds like a lot of work. It really, really, truly is fun once you kind of get in the swing of things, and all this stuff really does work. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of an insight to Instagram. There is a lot more to say about it. So I'm just going to end this lesson here, and maybe we'll do another Instagram tips and tricks section another day.
Cool. Well done. Yeah, catch your breath for a second.
Good thing I had a lot of coffee before I started that segment.
Yeah, that's awesome, especially by the display purposes thing. I'd never heard of that website before.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And I think it can help you out. And, I think in like Twitter and YouTube, hashtags are helpful there too. You don't want to do 30 like you do on Instagram. But they are, you can find, 3 to 10 hashtags that are relevant to your situation. And they supposedly mix them up. So sometimes they're smaller, the hashtags have smaller amounts of followers, and sometimes they have bigger amounts of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to kind of mix that up from what I hear. So
cool.
Yeah, check it out.
Any questions from the audience? Yeah, that was really neat.
Is it better with... this is a good question, Alice. Is it better to edit with Instagram tools or edit with your own picture tools before posting?
Oh.
So I never use the Instagram editing tools except for I do in stories just because it's easier. But for your own post, I would definitely recommend using another editing tool. In fact, it's something that we are going to do a tips and tricks on in the future, which now you guys know, again, tips and tricks are only going to be on our Patreon page moving forward. But I will do one on this, and it is Adobe Lightroom is a really great photo editing tool. There's a free version, or you can get the paid version, which you're going to get all the stuff. But Instagram, they say that, you use their stuff and it boosts you in the algorithm. I don't know if that's necessarily true anymore, though, for their filters, because I don't really think anybody uses them.
I don't think anybody uses them anymore.
Yeah, anymore. I mean, they're still there, but it's not a very, like most of the Instagrammers don't really use those anymore.
They're
they
not
use
in
presets.
vogue anymore. They used to be all the rage, and I think now it's kind of old hat.
They're not great. Not compared
to...
Yeah. I think I wonder, though, if one day they'll come up with some better... I mean, they haven't changed their Instagram filters in like 5 years. Yeah. They're exactly the same. The stories they have, though, which is so funny. There's a billion of them on stories. In fact, sometimes some of the Instagram influencers are creating their own filters. I don't know how they're doing this, and then selling them to Instagram. Right. And you can find them somehow and use all kinds of cool stuff.
That's right. Yeah, I see them way, way more in stories than in anything else. Yeah.
I didn't know that Twitter is doing a TikTok thing now.
It's like 2 weeks old or something. It's called they're called fleets.
Okay.
I know it's not a good name. I understand the name.
Yep.
I get it.
I get it.
Completely get it. But I don't think it's very good. And I don't think other people really like it either. I mean, they're getting used a lot, but it's kind of a silly name.
Oh, God. Yeah, they probably are trying to compete with Google Shop, Instagram. But yeah, it just...
shopping? Yeah.
The thing that confuses me is how it's like the most prominent tool right now on Instagram. Like, why? I don't get it. I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to trying to go that direction. So, I mean, and that's something to keep in mind with all social media. It's constantly changing. Just because it's the it thing right now doesn't mean it's going to be the it thing in 2 months or a year from now. In fact, I would definitely keep your eyes on TikTok.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, which, like Ed said, it is kind of, if you remember Vine, it's like Vine, but you can add music and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well.
Okay, I think that's end with a song, eh?
Yeah, and this is a song that we were going to do in our pre-show on Patreon. Which, again, you can join for just $5 a month, you guys. $5. That's one Starbucks coffee a month. That's it. But I couldn't find the lyrics. And then I found them. Because we haven't done this in so long, I definitely need the lyrics for this. But this is an original that I wrote and with a word arranged and recorded for our Clockwork Heart EP. And the song is called Mannequin.
Ready?
One moment.
Okay.
Let me just get this to a place that I can read it. Ready.
Okay. One and two and three and four and
I said it's only you, and if I did, that isn't true. I may be thinking like a man, but I love you like a mannequin. When we're lying down in bed, I wish I were alone instead. I'll snuggle in and close my eyes. In my sleep I'll realize when I'm dreaming about him, I'll love you like a mannequin. I know you wanna hold my hand. I'll touch you just like porcelain, perfect for your picture frame, frozen in a window pane. When you get under my skin, I'll love you like a mannequin. Just a whore. You opened up my centerfold before I could take off my clothes. I gave you the woman you think I am, but I love you like a mannequin. I love you like a mannequin. I love you like a mannequin.
Thanks for a fun show, everybody.
Thanks to our special guest, Amber Woodhouse. We'll have her links in the show notes so you can go and check her out on Spotify, iTunes, follow her socials on Instagram and Twitter. As a reminder, this will come out on Tuesday, the audio version, so check your podcast app, search for Crimes Against Folk. Feel free to subscribe and leave a review. Check out our Patreon page.
5 stars, you guys.
Yes.
5. Don't be the guy with the Doritos.
Yeah, don't hate listen to our podcast. Feel free to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/crimesagainstfolk. For our producer patrons, we are going to do the post show right after this. So stick around for that if you are a producer patron. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us and contributing to the conversation and listening to our wonderful guests. We really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. And we will see you next time. Oh, one thing to note. Sorry. There will not be an episode the week of November 29th. We are taking that week off as a post-Thanksgiving thing. We will be back on December 6th with our special guest, Michael Bashkin. So just...
Not the live show, but we do have a turkey special for you.
Right. Well, that was going to be a surprise. But
it was? Oh, I blew it.
That's okay. That's fine. Yes, there will be a Turkey Day special, so keep an eye on your podcast feeds for that. It'll drop right on Thanksgiving Day, so you'll have something to listen to while you're cooking.
Yep.
Or while you need to, or after you eat and you need to go to sleep, you can listen to us.
Maybe we'll keep our guest a surprise then.
Yeah,
since
we'll
I
keep
blew
our
it.
guest a surprise.
Okay.
It'll be awesome.
There is a guest.
There is a guest. So just a reminder, no podcast episode the week of November 29th. We'll be back on December 6th with our special guest, Michael Bashkin. Until then, everyone, take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.
Eat some pie. Lots of pie. All the pie.
Do it.
Bye.